My name is Juliet Hardesty. I'm a metadata analyst at Indiana University, and along with Rebekah Kati at UNC Chapel Hill, who you heard from just a little bit here ago, we're going to talk about Hyrax web accessibility evaluation and planning. So I think the first thing we want to share is previous accessibility work that's happened and how things kind of are looking have looked up to this point. So the first thing that we can point out is in GitHub with the issue lists, the issues that we have for Hyrax. There's been labels that have been created, both accessibility blocker and accessibility concern. And so over the years, this has kind of been over a long period of time, as issues have been reported that are concerning accessibility, those labels have been used to try and help amplify and organize the things that we know have been reported previously as accessibility problems. So right now, there are no accessibility blockers, but there have been 12 issues in the past that have been considered accessibility blockers that have been addressed. So there have been some significant things that have been worked on previously up to this point. And for accessibility concern, that's a little larger set. There are currently 41 issues that are labeled as accessibility concern. And there's a variety of things captured there in those reports. And there's also 65 issues that have been closed. So there's already been quite a bit of work that's happened regarding things that we see as accessibility concerns, but were not considered blockers to the Hyrax application. This has also kind of encompassed accessibility audits at various points in time. So the first one that I know about is in 2017. There was accessibility audit work done on what was then Sophia and Hydra. It was kind of a pre-Hyrax, but the GitHub repository code here kind of captures some of the issues that were happening that were reported then and worked on with that accessibility audit. And I don't quite know what all the tools were that were used for that audit, but I believe someone was using a screen reader with the application at that point. And there may have been some of the like wave report tool might have been used as well, but I'm not completely sure about the 2017 work that happened. In 2019, when we were working in Hyrax 3.x at that point, the code was at that point. There was a little bit more formal accessibility audit work. I think a lot of that was from folks at Notch8. It's now SoftServe. They were working through systematically on both the front end and the back end to test things using keyboard navigation and looking at reports like the wave report, and I think Axe reporting was also used, those accessibility tools. And so a lot of the issues that I think are still, or some of the issues that are still open, are related to that that audit that happened at that point. And in 2024, I think Rebekah is going to be talking about this a little bit, but there is a Hyrax 5 accessibility audit that is getting started and happening right now. And something that over time, this has become something that we've incorporated into release testing. So we have a spreadsheet that we use whenever there's a major Hyrax release that's coming out, and it takes us through, there's all sorts of tabs, and it takes us through all varieties of steps and test cases to ensure that the release is not breaking anything that we're expecting to have working. And accessibility is one of the tabs on that spreadsheet, and there are several steps that testers, folks that are testing the application will go through. And you can we recommend using either wave reporting or Axe reporting to evaluate different points in the application. And also that tab test, you can kind of see that over on the very far right of the screenshot here. The tab test is kind of going through in keyboard navigation using just the keyboard, and it doesn't get at screen reader. It doesn't get at screen reader use precisely, but it is at least testing the main features that we're looking at for release testing to ensure that things are still working as they're supposed to. And this is looking at both the end user side of a Hyrax instance, as well as in the dashboard and the admin side. So that's where things have been in the past with accessibility work. And I'm going to pass it over to Rebekah to talk about accessibility and Hyrax now.
Thanks, Julie. So next slide. So as Julie mentioned, the maintenance working group is currently working on an accessibility audit for Hyrax 5. So we're looking at both the public pages and the pages behind authentication. We're trying to be as comprehensive as possible. So we are looking at pages that haven't really been checked since that previous audit that Julie mentioned that was done in 2019. We're using the Site Improve browser extension for Chrome to check page by page. The nice thing about Site Improve is that it clearly notes which level of the web content accessibility guidelines is not in compliance with a particular element on a page. So it's really easy to see which parts of Hyrax are out of compliance with WCAG, single A and double A. We are creating tickets for items which do not meet WCAG's single A or double A. You may remember I sent out an email back in January, I think, asking which standard community members indicated that they needed to meet for as required by their institutions, and WCAG double A was overwhelmingly the standard. So that's what we're targeting. Currently, Julie has reviewed all the public-facing pages. Yay! And I've looked at 25 authenticated pages, and that's a little bit over about half of the authenticated pages that need to be reviewed. So still some work to do. But what we're finding is that it's actually going pretty well. We're doing pretty good. I can put a link to the tracking spreadsheet in the Slack chat if folks want to take a look, but we're finding there's a lot of overlap between issues. Things that are out of compliance are appearing on multiple pages. So the list looks longer than it actually is, but hopefully if we fix something on one page, it will cascade to other pages and we can knock out quite a few issues there. Next slide. So we still have a few things to do. Need to finish the audit. We also want to look at creating tickets for ARIA issues and also items which Site Improve suggests that we fix as a best practice. I also want to take a closer look at the EU Web Accessibility Directive guidelines, which is the standard that our colleagues at EU-based institutions have indicated that they need to comply with. My understanding is that there's a lot of overlap between that and WCAG AA, so we may already have a lot of those concerns covered, but definitely want to make sure that our EU friends are served by this audit as well. And finally, we would love to see all these tickets that we're creating get addressed. This is a great way for folks to make a significant and really appreciated contribution to the community. So if you're interested, you can just assign yourself one of the tickets tagged as an accessibility concern and submit a PR. If you'd like to discuss it with someone, please feel free to join the maintenance working group stand-ups or ping us on Slack. Next slide. And here are some things that we would like to do in the future. I just want to note that these are purely aspirational things, but this is what we're thinking about. We would love to integrate accessibility more into the Hyrax release process. So this could look like expanding the testing spreadsheet that Julie showed earlier to do page-by-page testing, or ideally having an accessibility crawler crawl one of the new Raxes to ensure that a new release meets WCAG AA standards. We'd also like to see accessibility audits done by a real person who uses assistive tools or is more experienced in how assistive tools work than we are, so that they can approach the Samvera software like Hyrax from that perspective and give feedback on what the experience is like to use Hyrax assistive tools. We've also talked a little bit about VPATs. We think that VPATs are helpful and that we can and should have a VPAT on file for any software that the Samvera community provides, but we feel that a VPAT doesn't really show that we're accessible, just that it's a concern in the community. and that we're aware that the VPAT is an assessment format that we need to provide. So we think it can be considered a starting point when talking to users who can evaluate our software using assistive technologies. Next slide. And that's it for us. Here's how to contact us, and feel free to ask questions.